On today's episode, if they edge the Illuminate any harder, I'm fitting to bucket your eagle running. Head out on a hell dive. Is Arrowhead gonna let players take the reins? All that and more on today's episode. So join me on the SCS. I was region locked and all I got is this stupid cape. And let's dive on in.
Launch initiated.
Thanks for joining me for a new episode of Dive On In. We're going to go over what's been happening in the Helldivers 2 community over the last few days. And to start with, we're going to talk about the major order that we've all been working on. Things looking a little dire right now. We're just over the halfway mark, and we've only got like 30 some hours to go on this. I know I've been working on that all weekend, just killing as many bots as I can, but it's a big ask, and there's a lot of people who don't like to fight bots. So it's pretty difficult, as well as there's a few things that we'll talk about here in a moment that are probably contributing to not the greatest experience when it comes to fighting bots or fighting on a higher difficulty or just killing as many bots as you can right now. Though I am having a lot of fun with the new Pummeler SMG that was in the Polar Patriots Warbond. If you haven't tried this thing, I was really skeptical of it, especially against bugs. I was like, we've seen Stagger before with the Liberator Concussive. You know, it knocks the bugs back. I tried it with the Stalkers. Yeah, it stun locks them, but you got to dump the whole clip on them basically to kill them. So it wasn't that great, but then this major order came out, and I took that, and I took the ballistic shield, and I took the AMR, I took the laser cannon over to the bots, and I have just had a complete blast this weekend with that stuff. Because the stagger on the Devastators, it just seems to hit different on those bots. It is like a mini stun grenade. They like shut down and they like lean over and shut down for, I'd say, like half the duration that they would with a stun grenade. It does make them a little harder to hit, which was my worry, and I talked about that last week. They hunch over, their little head can be difficult to hit, but if you just take your time, you have all the time in the world because of the way that stagger works. To line that up and just pelt that head, and they go right over it, and it is just so satisfying that the SMG Pummeler against the bots is one of the most fun things to run right now, especially with that ballistic shield. You can still use the Pummeler against the Rocket Devastator, but it's much more fun against like the heavy Devastators or regular Devastators to shut those guys down. You still got to kind of peek against the rockets, but you can get them to shut down as well, and then you can really walk up on them and get that head, and it's just so much fun. And I've been having a lot of fun as well practicing on the Hulks. I've found that the laser cannon does take a long time to kill them, even when you have them shut down with a stun grenade and have the laser right on them. It still seems to take forever. So lately I've been switching to the AMR because that's just going to be 2 shots, right? So I'll throw that stun grenade at their feet. They'll get stunned. I'll bust the AMR out. Pop. They go down. And that is a very fun playstyle with the Hulks, with that SMG Pummeler, the ballistic shield, stun grenades, and the AMR. And I've been running, like I talked about, that Cobra Commander armor. But I tell you what, that Winter Soldier armor with the limb health and the Kodiak with the anti-explosive, all of that works very well against bots, and it looks really good too. So those aspects of the Warbond have been really nice. I still don't know what's up with motivational shocks. And to me, it's got to be host bugged or something is up with it. It's got to have an internal cooldown. I cannot tell for the life of me. I was running with a buddy of mine, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I should have got slowed and I didn't." And then he's like, "Wait a minute, I am slowed. I don't know what's going on with this." So it's another one of these boosters where we just don't know what's going on. I haven't seen anybody talk about any volume testing they've done with this or given any definitive numbers. I haven't seen any content creators really break it down and go over it. So I don't know what is up with that motivational shocks. If anybody knows, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think is going on with that booster, how it works, any kind of information I'm looking for, because I was so excited for that. That was the thing I was most excited for, and I am just not seeing anything from it yet. All right, so major order. I don't know. We're gonna complete this. It's 45 medals. We're gonna probably not get the anti-tank mines. A lot of people are still optimistic about this. I'm going to keep on trying. As I make footage, I'm going to keep making footage with bot missions. Keep going for it. But I am skeptical that we're going to get this done. And does that mean we're never going to get the anti-tank mines? This is our second chance. And are we going to miss it? Are they going to feel sorry for us and give it to us? There's been a lot of negative press going on, so it's hard to say how they're going to handle that. I would like to play with those anti-tank mines, especially against the Hulks, especially against the tanks. I do think it's very fun to play against the bots, especially with this pummeler now. The bots have more fun, more interactive objectives like the jammers, the detector towers, and you can do a lot more with that stuff. So I really would like to be able to get those mines and play with them. So we'll have to see how that turns out. All right. Next thing here, Video Gamer revealed, or they kind of scraped Reddit and got some information on a few leakers on Reddit, some new artwork and things about the Illuminate. So we take a look, and if you're listening to the audio version, I apologize because it's mostly going to be shots and artwork. So I'll try to describe it a little bit. This looks kind of Protossy, kind of octopusy. It's like very aquatic looking. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is looking a bit yonic. This is looking a little illuminusy, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's looking. Look at this thing. It's a little ridiculous, but they look like kung fu monks, kind of. Especially this shot over here, and I know this shot over here on the right. That's a little old. That's from a few months ago. This image on the left of the head is the newer image. And so again, this just seems like we're getting closer. We're getting closer. But we've been getting closer for a while. It seems like they've been talking about the Illuminate since the game came out. And it's like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And I just haven't seen anything in game that's kind of pushing us there. It's always just talked about outside the game. We've never really had any hint with a major order, or we saw those blue lasers in the sky and we saw those shadowy big ships, but were those just glitches? Were those just graphical artifacts? Was that real? This game is kind of the king of gaslighting, so it's hard to say. But on top of that, this is kind of weird. Beyond just this article, Johan did make a post. So if we take a look at that post, somebody who's talking about those mods we talked about last week, somebody made a Star Wars mod, and he jumped in on this and said, imagine if there was a predator-like alien species in the Helldivers universe that were exiled from the galaxy that were planning vengeance. I mean, he's obviously talking about the Illuminate, and this was just the May 11th is when he said this, 2 days ago. So he's jumping in and teasing, and then he's sticking in the thread. CEO dropping hints in the next faction and saying I'd never, and just keeps on teasing. So hopefully that means we're getting a little closer. But developers, community managers are saying, they're having some trouble with the Sony thing. Has kind of pushed things back. So it's hard to say. It really is. So beyond that, he also put out an image, a very tiny, hard to see image of what appears to be the new Sony debacle cape. And you can see it's got the 3 cascading red lines. indicating the days of negative reviews accumulating. And then what I imagine is a last day of it coming back up. Down here at the bottom, we've got these blue highlights, which we don't see much of, and I kind of like that because that's going to go with my Cobra Commander armor, my Arctic Scout armor, the red and the blue. Got this deep black. So this armor is going to, this cape is going to go with a lot of different armors, I believe, if it comes out. Now, this is looking pretty polished to me, just a shot. But he dropped this. And then one thing about this post on Twitter is another guy mentioned, hey, it'd be really awesome if we could do a contest, a cape design contest. And he said, yeah, that'd be cool, but there might be some legal hurdles to go through. And there's a small, tiny discussion about that, but he seems open to that as well. After that, there was some talk about the state of assault rifles in the game. If you know, the Tenderizer is kind of a joke right now. It's kind of a reskin Liberator, but worse. So it's really a pea shooter nobody brings, kind of a joke. If you want to just play handicapped, you can bring that gun, but it is not very good at all. And a guy makes a post here. He tags Johan in this, and Johan actually responds and says that he agrees about assault rifles and their representation is diluted. It's strange that these rifles are pea shooters in some games rather than the 2KJ spitters that they are. And so, again, an indicator that he's wanting to turn things around as far as weapon power levels are concerned, especially assault rifles. We'll have to see where we go from there. Another user makes kind of a weird suggestion that Pilestedt responds to, and let me see if I can find that window. Let's see. This look like Cyber is his name. Okay, yes. So Cyber says, "Throwing out a dumb idea. What if we made the stronger weapons only available on difficulty 7 and up, or they just get a buff from ship modules from 7 and up, things like that?" And Johan says, no, it's important that everybody can play together, or high level players can help lower level players. So yeah, that does seem kind of like a ridiculous restriction or gatekeeping or elitism. More toxicity being brought into the game that doesn't really make much sense. And it is kind of self-restricting. This other guy down here, Cug, mentions on Twitter that those weapons are kind of self-restricting because you don't really need to bring a bunch of eats or anti-tanks to level 3 and 4. You're just not running into those enemies. You're not running into a bunch of chargers and Bile Titans at 3 and 4. So you can run in with, a bunch of machine guns, heavy machine guns, stalwarts, flamethrowers, things like that, and never have to worry about taking down those bigger enemies, or at least have them in limited numbers where you can deal with them in other ways. So it is kind of a self relegating or regulating issue there. Another mention, something that was kind of funny to think about, and I bet we will see in the future, is what if Pelican 1 could be called in as a stratagem? And there was a kind of a mock-up here from a player in more Nilap talking about having an autocannon support from Pelican 1, or a mortar barrage, or EMS barrage, Gatling barrage, different things like that, all kinds of different options. And Johan's agreed that seems awesome. But it was kind of funny because there was a joke here from Ralathun saying, yeah, but how come he takes 2.5 minutes to call in for extract? That's going to be kind of a problem to call him in for support. And Johan's like, yeah, that'd be the one issue, wouldn't it? So you could imagine having to call in this stratagem 2.5 minutes early. I'd probably work against the bots. You could call it in on like a detector tower and sit there for 2.5 minutes. But I don't know about the bugs. They don't really have any objectives. Maybe a large hive nest you could sit there and hide on, wait for it to come down. All right, so we're getting into more of the heavy stuff. And this is something I thought was interesting. If I can find my window here. Here it is. So, talking about This weekend, they added 3 more countries to the restricted or the region lock list. Um, it went from 177 to 180, which seems crazy. I think that everybody says there's only 190 countries in the world, so that's what only 10 countries can have PSN. I don't know, the numbers seem weird about that. But anyways, um, so the 3 more countries added, people were kind of making a kerfuffle about that. And Johan came in and said it was an administrative issue. It was 3 more countries they didn't real or Sony didn't realize they had to have added. It was actually Valve who pointed it out, saying, "Hey, you guys aren't available in these 3. Why aren't they on the list?" And they put them on. But the very important thing about this, more than anything, is there's been a lot of talk and a lot of people saying, "Oh, my country's not in PSN, so now I can't play anymore." And for a while now, and Johan has been saying this over and over again, is that's not the case. If you bought the game and you're in a restricted region, your sale is honored and you will be able to play the game. And he continues to say that again here over this weekend, over and over again, and you can see it right here. It's a lot more than the accounts. Sony sold games in 180 markets they knew were going to pull support from. They just added 3 more countries, making 180 countries that won't be able to play if PSN is required. Johan says PSN won't be required. The sale will be honored and it won't be made unplayable. Again, he's saying this on May 11th. So if you bought the game in those restricted regions, you're still going to be able to play it, even though you can't buy the game there now. If you purchased it previous to that, you'll still be able to play it. And I think there's been confusion about that, but he has said this over and over again, time and time again. And I don't think there's any more debate left on that particular point. If you bought the game successfully in the past, even if it's restricted now, you'll be able to continue to play it. And he goes over that again here in a moment. We're going to move on to some different points from Discord, some Q&A, some back and forth with the community managers, things like that. This first one here, let me make sure I'm on the right slide I want to be on. I'm actually not. I'm at the end. Let me jump back to the beginning here real quick. So at the beginning, somebody said, as for a bike, there was a conversation going on about motorcycles in the Discord for Helldivers 2. And somebody said, as for a bike, we had a motorcycle in Helldivers 1. That was from Draco on Discord. And Twinbeard jumped in. He's a community manager on the Helldivers 2 Discord. And he said, sure, but for Helldivers 2, I don't know. There's something with the perspective view. The more I think about it, I guess I can see it. The cape blown in the wind, doing recon, especially the duo sidecar ones. Oh, okay, you've convinced me. It does sound interesting. And that's kind of from my intro when I was doing the George Thorogood impression, singing that song about Eagle One and Hell Dive. It's kind of goofy, but that's what I was getting at, is just imagining myself riding through Hellmire or something on a motorcycle would be so cool. Now, there's the terrain. I don't know how it would work. You better have some crazy suspension to get over that terrain and all that, but I imagine it'd be very squishy, and I think it'd have a lot of trouble with the terrain. And I don't know if it'd be worth a stratagem slot on some of the higher difficulties, but the coolness factor would definitely be there. Next, Twinbeard just kind of made a big announcement on the Discord, and he said, yo, divers, don't want to make this an announcement, though he did make it in all caps. It looked like an announcement to me. But he said, I just want to mention that we've conveyed to our Steam colleagues some of the details and concerns on the state of patrols and spawn rates for missions with 1 to 3 players, that they're too hard, spawn rates are too high or bonked, which leads to frustrating gameplay when playing in teams with fewer than 4 players at the moment. We know a lot of you feel they need some checking into. Thanks for the heads up. If or when we know more, we will holler. Now, over the weekend, Takubo, Odo, a few other solo players made new videos illustrating just how bonkers the spawn rates are on these solo hell dives, or not even solo, 2, 3 player hell dives. The timing of the patrols, that they are not linear, that they are a static, lowest they can be spawn rate, something like 2.45 seconds base with an exponential compound rate. And it just doesn't make sense. It looks like a bug. It is not what they said. It is not a linear progression of spawn rate times. It is a static, as fast as it can go, exponential rate. And it just looks broken. So this appears to be them acknowledging that, yes, maybe something's broken. Maybe we need to make a change. And really, they do. They need to make a change. They need to step back on this. They need to let the content creators make their single player content. It's just easier to make that content. People like to watch that content. It's aspirational content. It's going to make people engage with the game more, try to play the game in new and different ways. And they really need to step this back. They need to fix this. And that's just where the game needs to go. All right, next we have John Schizo in the Discord saying, I'd love to see primaries not getting gutted constantly for once, but I'm probably asking for too much. And Evil Boss, which is a developer at Arrowhead, he says, our CEO is doing a major internal push on balancing. A lot of meetings and a lot of chats are going on. So Johan, not only has he said that on Twitter over the last week, but Evil Boss is telling us that is going on at the studio as well. He is conveying that they need to do some rebalancing, and this needs to be a focus with the development team. So we're seeing that follow through, and that's been a concern. We know that Johan has always sincerely had the interest of the design and stuff to be fun for the players, but we've not necessarily seen that coming through from the developer side and coming through on the output of what's making it out into the live game. So this looks like a little more follow through. That's optimistic, but it does take time. Changes take time, and who knows how long until we see buffs and things like that, or bringing up things like the Tenderizer and the new plasma weapon that came out with a new Warbond that are just basically dead on arrival. But we'll have to see how long it's going to take for that stuff to be moved up and fixed, essentially. Next, from Professor, I really feel for you guys. It must be hard balancing what you guys envision for the game with what the community wants for the game. And Twinbeard, the community manager, says, it is, but if you ask me personally, I think the biggest issue so far has been that we were overwhelmed already by the launch. It takes time, a lot of time, to bounce back and get ahead with such massive pressure. And what can be perceived as us being slow or not listening is more, in my opinion anyway, the fact that we're still not up to speed. Also, the game is still only 3 months old, but due to it being such a massive success, there's a lot of sentiment, opinions, suggestions, and feedback, some of which we lack the time and resources to always handle satisfactorily. We're hiring and learning, though. So he's just kind of saying we're behind. More than anything, they're behind. They're trying to play catch up. I know Johan at the beginning said he didn't really want to hire a bunch of new people to kind of catch up with all the success, but it sounds like they are maybe doing a little bit of that. Because, you never want to have the news come out saying you're firing people now because maybe the game's not doing well a year later or something like that. So maybe they were waiting for that to blow over. It's a difficult situation, really. Whether or not you hire a bunch of new people that you're going to have to let go later, it's hard to handle that. So, all right, Mr. G on Discord says, are there talks about using player polls more often? I feel having a more direct input of community feedback could be really helpful overall. And Twinbeard says, yes, there are, both here and more detailed ones externally. Last week has been hectic and then some. There'll be more for sure. And I know on the Discord they have a poll about just the general sentiment over the Polar Patriots War Bond. Not a great options to answer on that poll. Nothing that really fits how I feel about it. It's just kind of like, do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think it could? Should we work on patches instead of war bonds? It seems like there is this general sentiment of them maybe wanting to slow down on war bonds and focus more on patches, which I'm kind of okay with. Um, I don't know. That's kind of a mixed bag. You less content versus a more stable game. Maybe we could shuffle that around later. It's hard to say. If you have a thought on that, leave a comment. Let me know. But they're going to be doing more polling, and I don't know that I like that because there's been games in the past where the developers kind of throw their hands up in the air at all the frustrated players and let the players take the wheel. And that's not necessarily the greatest thing for the game. I think the developers do need to have a handle on their vision for the game, not let the players wear them down completely, and just take over and bend the knee to everything the players want. They do need to push back and make sure that the game is what they want it to be, without just letting the community steamroll them. So I do worry about doing too much of this, letting your entire development cycle be run by community polls or group things. So I hope they don't go too heavy for that, or they mitigate that somehow, because that is worrisome for me personally. Next from Fruity Fool, are there talks of implementing a test server for Helldivers 2? So we're all able to test new weapon stratagems before they get implemented into the live game. I feel like this would help feedback into the devs for weapon balancing, etc. I'm sure a lot of us would be willing to do this. And Twinbeard says, hey, yes there is, yes there are plans. Can't say for sure there will be a test server or at what stage we're at regarding setting something like that up, but alternatives similar to that are being discussed. And thanks for the input. That is strange. I feel like that will take away kind of from some of the major orders and the things we have to push for in the game as a collective community. If a lot of people are going on there, it's definitely not going to help with mitigating any kind of leaks or anything like that. Um, and then are they really going to get what they want out of that? It's That's another thing. Just like the polling, I don't know if it's worth the resources, because are you really going to catch everything? Are you going to get the volume of players in there that you want to get what you want out of it? There's a lot of considerations. Whereas you throw it live and you're going to get your feedback. You're going to know what needs to be fixed, and you're going to have some heat on it too. You're going to fix it pretty quickly. Who knows how long that a test server might extend things out? How long will it take for a new Warbond to come out if you got to go back and fix a bunch of things that they found out in a test server? And is it worth it? Is that QA? Is it truly going to give you some tangible return, that's going to make a big difference? So a lot to consider there, and I am skeptical of the test server approach as well. All right, next from Smith Mandalorian. Hi, do we have any news on region restriction situation? And this was just from this morning. This is May 13th, Monday, May 13th. And Twinbeard says no. So we still don't know if there's going to be any walking back of region restrictions as far as new sales. Again, Johan has said existing sales honored. You'll still have access, no issue. But new sales, no new information, and they still are talking about walking it back. And last here from Pockets, I have the game in my library even though it's not available for purchase here. Am I at any risk of getting banned if I play it? Here again, Pockets is in a region-locked area where he cannot purchase the game if he wanted to, but he already owns it. And Johan says, no, this was clear. If you have bought the game, you will be able to play forever. He goes on to say, forever if I get to choose. Even if we were to sunset the game, we would build automation on the Game Master and other features. We don't want to screw you guys over. So again, he's just making that point absolutely clear. If you bought it in a region locked area, you have it and you should be able to play it, and it should last forever. You should not get banned. And I just wanted to make that clear because that's what I always understood it to be. I think he's done a lot of work this weekend to make that clear. I think a lot of people have been saying the opposite without all the knowledge, or they've just been hearing what he said and just ignoring it for whatever reason. A lot of people like to, select their own facts. So I am just showing you guys this is what he said over and over and over again this weekend regarding the region locks and prior purchases. Yes, you can't do new purchases in those regions. We know that, and they're working on that. Hopefully there's some news on that soon. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching if you're still here. If you like what you're hearing, please like and subscribe. I changed the lighting up. I changed the glasses up. A lot of people were complaining that this looked kind of a little bit too much like an office, like I'd snuck off in some office building somewhere, so I changed the lighting up. Let me know if you like it or not. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment. Anything you do or don't like about the show, please let me know. But I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.